Hi, good morning. We are going to use a chair as our primary prop today for what we're going to practice. At the end, once we're down on the floor and prepping for Shavasana, we'll bring in probably, if you've got a blanket or towel handy or a pillow, that will be helpful. But otherwise, the chair is all we are going to need. So we're going to start actually having a seat in the chair. You can be further to the back or closer to the front. And we're just going to bring one foot up onto the opposite leg so we can kind of have access to that foot and ankle. So once we've got that up, we're just going to rub our foot, kind of as if we were going to rub our palms together to create some heat. That's what we're going to do with the toes and the ball of the foot, midfoot, heel. It's going to rub it like it's a genie bottle. There's no right or wrong. And then we're going to move to just some squeezes. So you'll just put your hand, wrap it around on each of your hands, wrap around your foot, and you'll just give it a squeeze. Could spread the toes apart or squeeze them together. Just squeezing, touching the foot in ways that feel good for it. Get around the heel and ankle. One more squeeze. And then we're going to set that foot on the floor. And just take a second and notice the right and the left, the distinction. It might just feel like there's the one's warmer, there's more blood flow, might feel more in contact with the floor than the other foot. And you're going to bring the other one up. And again, we're just rubbing around that foot, just like it was a genie bottle. Make sure you get the heel and the ankle. I remember having to do this for the kids when it's cold here today, so like when they'd come in from skating and then go to squeezing. And again, not a squeeze that we're trying to like do something other than it's like an embrace with the hands of that foot. You know, some people when they shake hands, they're like seem to be intent on like breaking a bone instead of just like, it's just an embrace. It's just a hello, nice to meet you. We don't have to crush the other person's hand. Again, make sure you get the heel and around the ankle bones. One more squeeze, and then we're going to let that go. Bring that foot on the floor. And we're going to bring the other one back up on that knee. And as it's sitting there, we're going to take the toes and you're just going to think of like lifting the toes. Lifting the toes towards the shin. Lifting the toes towards the shin. And just notice the shape change that happens in your foot and in your ankle. Sensation that you get. The foot, lower leg, maybe even into the hip. Okay, so let that go. So this next time, instead of just lifting the toes, I want us to think like we're lifting the toes and the heel at the same time. So the foot kind of does this action. It's going to be very minimal to see, but instead of just lifting the toes like we were a second ago, think about the heel also lifting. And just feel how that's different than just lifting the toes. Okay. let that go. And then the last thing we're going to do with the foot up here is we're going to take the toes and we're going to curl them up. Curl them up. Like if they were on the floor, they're clawing the floor. Okay, clawing the floor with the toes. Okay, let that go and we'll put that foot back down on the floor. And then we'll bring our other one up. And again, go to where we're taking the toes and we're just thinking of lifting them up. We're just lifting the toes up towards the knee. So if these are the toes, we're just lifting the toes. Again, feel how it is on this foot. Look at the shape change in the foot, what you feel in the lower leg. Okay, and then we're going to add where we're not just lifting the toes, but also a sense of lifting the heel at the same time. So toes and heel, lift. And you can see how there doesn't need to be much movement for that action to kind of take place. There's a sense of the toes and heel lifting at the same time. The way we've kind of discussed it before would have been in the summer when we talked about the T's and P's and F's. This would be like the F's, the flexors on the bottom of the foot, kind of lengthening because the toes and heels both lift. Good, let that go, and then we're going to go to clawing the toes one last time on this foot. So curling the toes in or clawing the toes. You might get a toe cramp. I sometimes do in my pinky and fourth. And you don't have to curl up the midfoot, just the toes. Okay, let that go, place that foot back on the ground. And then we're gonna have a seat at the front of our chair, and we could put our hands behind us, okay? So our hands are behind us, that's just giving us a little bit of stability support. And we're just gonna lift knee to the chest, knee to the chest, knee to the chest, knee to the chest. Notice how this is for you. Notice like what happens? How is the leg being lifted? Okay, let that go. And then I want you to think of the leg that's going to lift. I want you to think of that action of the toes and heels lifting at the same time to be what brings the knee up. Toes and heel lift at the same time to create that marching with the legs. Okay, this time leg comes up, but when it goes down to the ground, that's where I want you to think of lifting the toes and heels. So I'm going to lift the leg up. As it goes down, I'm thinking lift toes and heel. Lift toes and heel, lift toes and heel as that foot comes to the ground. Okay, we're going to do one more combination, and that combination is clawing with the toes and lifting the heel as the leg comes up. Lift the toes, lift the heel as the leg comes down. So claw the toes, lift the heel, lift the toes, heel. Claw, lift, claw, lift, claw, lift, claw. So it's claw and then lift the toes and heel to bring it back to the ground. Good, let that go. And then I want you to just spend a moment doing whichever version of that was either most interesting or it felt smooth, easy, you liked the pace or the cadence that kind of came from the action of what you were doing with the feet. Okay? Good, okay, let that go. I just want to check with those of you on the call. Any questions about what we just did there? You can give a thumbs up if you're good or unmute if you want to check in. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay. Unless you unmute Deborah, I'm going to assume we're good to go. Okay, so you're going to, again, stick with whatever action with the marching of the legs worked for you, whatever action of the feet. And what we're going to add in now is a reach with both arms. So the knee comes up and we reach one arm between the legs and one arm on the outside. Awesome. Thanks, Deborah. So again, you're going to utilize the action with the feet that had this feel the most connected, coordinated, and let your spine flex around when you reach. So we're not trying to stay sitting up tall or anything like that. You're going to have some rounding of the spine as we add this reach. Okay? Now we're just going to make one more change, and that is changing the reach. So instead of between and outside, both arms are going to go outside. Well, one will kind of probably be more above the knee, but the other one will most definitely be outside the knee. So same thing, marching with those legs. When it comes up, we reach to that side. So whatever knee comes up, we're reaching to that side. Depending on the speed of the legs, you're probably going to find that it's not possible to like inhale at a certain point and exhale at a certain point. You're just going to need to breathe. You could maybe exhale as a leg comes up and inhale it as it goes down, but depending on how quick your legs are marching, that also might not work. Okay? Just make sure and notice that you're not holding your breath. We want to be able to breathe. Okay, we're going to let that go. Shake out the arms. Okay, I'm warm. How's everybody doing? Good. Okay, so let's go to some stuff for the upper body, and then we're going to move into a standing sequence where we utilize some of that foot-toe stuff again. So sitting here, just feel where your head is, and I want you to think just of your skull. So not your neck, just your skull. So if you want, you can bring a hand to the front and a hand to the back of the neck or of the throat. And we just want to nod the head. So it's not going to be a big, huge movement because we want to keep the neck out of it. And it's just a rolling of the skull on top of that atlas, top of that top vertebra. And you might just take a second and notice if you can sense or feel how your eyeballs move in your eye sockets as the skull rolls on the atlas. Okay, now instead of nodding forward and back, we're going to take it side to side. So not a shaking of the head, no, but a lateral tip on that atlas, or like a bobblehead, side to side. Again, it's not going to be much because we don't want to move the neck. We're just oscillating the head. Sometimes if you get a sense of feeling like your earlobes are heavy, and the heaviness of one earlobe is what tips it one way, and the heaviness of the other earlobe tips it the other way, can be helpful. You might also find if you're like, oh, there's not much movement that happens, see about relaxing, and even as the head tips ever so slightly, that it's letting the jawbone protrude forward. And out to the side as the head goes side to side. Okay, the last movement of the head is a figure 8. So it's both those together, tracing a figure 8. Give yourself a second to kind of find your rolling figure 8. And the figure 8, if you think of like it's at the base of the skull or on the atlas, that's the pattern we want to be tracing. It's not in front of the face or behind the skull. It's literally underneath the skull or on top of the skull. And again, you might notice what the jawbone does. And what the eyes do in the eye socket. Hopefully you feel the eyeballs rolling around and they're not staying anchored. I mean, they will be anchored, but like they want to kind of look in different spots that aren't staying a fixed gaze. Because obviously they are anchored into the eye socket. Okay, let that go. Okay. So from here, just take a second and notice how the neck feels. And then again, bring the hand to the neck. But this time, instead of just the head moving, we're going to move the head by moving the vertebra of the neck. So think of as the chin drops down, there's like space coming to those back vertebrae. And as the chin lifts and the back of the skull drops, we're creating spaces between the front side of the vertebra. So get a sense of like the stretch at the back and then the stretch at the front. And again, you could use that like protrusion of the jawbone to help get into those cervical vertebrae. Okay, then you're going to bring your hands onto the skull just to support the weight of it a little bit. And again, it's about a lateral side bend of the head and the neck. So we're going for feeling a stretch or spaces created on the one side and a coming together on the other side. And so I find having the fingers or the hands on the neck or on the head can be helpful, and move as slow or as quick as you're comfortable doing. I was sick last week, not COVID because I did a test, and one of the symptoms, like I didn't feel sick, but I like had so much inflammation in my neck, not my throat, but my neck and up the back of my skull, that what first alerted me is I was like, did I get whiplash in my sleep? Because I had so much inflammation up the back of my skull that I could not move my head off axis at all. And that was like about 3 days. And so this is a bit for my benefit because it feels good now that I can move. I'm getting out any of the residual kind of creakiness. Okay, let that go. Ears are popping. Okay, we're gonna make our way up to standing. Again, that head neck stuff, really great for the vestibular system, super gentle way. We could do any of those things too on the floor with our head on a folded, low profile, like folded blanket. Okay. So we're gonna come stand behind the chair. I think I'll put mine this way for you guys. And just find yourself your way into like a plank. So shoulders are roughly above the hands on the chair and body's out long. You could have a bend in the knees, that's fine. Think about just stretching out, being long from the heels out through the top of the head. Okay? So from this plank position, we're going to think about a pulling back of the hips back into a downward dog. So yes, the arms are going to push, but I also want you to think about from the glute medians here, which attach to the outside top of the pelvis and the greater trochanter, like they're contracting and pulling the hips back into that down dog shape. Again, knees can be bent or legs can be straight. And then you're going to let go of the slingshot of the hips and find your way back into plank. Okay, one more time. You're going to pull back from the hips and then find your way back into plank. Now, once you're in plank, let's just lift the toes and the heels at the same time. And then we're going to bring one knee towards the same elbow. But when you do that, I want you to think of the toes clawing and the heel lifting of that leg to bring the knee to the elbow. And then back to plank, hips pull us back into that down dog shape. Okay? Find your way back into plank. Once you arrive there, think toes lift, heels lift. And then the other side, knee to elbow, think toes claw, heel lift to bring that knee up. Bring the foot back to the ground. Pull those hips back. Good. Find your way back into that plank. As you get lined up, think toes and heels both lifting away from one another. And then claw the toes, lift the heel. This time knee comes between the hands. Back to the floor, hips pull back. We're going to do that on the other side. So just moving through with your time. And then we'll meet back in downward dog. Pull those hips back. Good, okay? Then you're going to come back to plank. Lift the toes and heels once you arrive in plank. And this time that knee is going to come to the opposite wrist. Think claw the toes, lift the heel to bring that knee to the opposite wrist, elbow. And then back to the floor, pull the hips back. Okay, we're going to do one more time on that other side. Toes and heels lift. Outside of that wrist. Actually, I think we just did that one side, so we'll count down on that other side. We started with the wrist. Back to that plank, toes and heels up. Come between the hands with that side. Claw the toes, lift the heel. One more time, plank. This time, same knee, same wrist, elbow. Plank. Pull the hips back, downward dog. This time we're going to walk the feet towards the chair. Let the head rest on the chair. Let your head rest on the chair, and then we're going to roll up vertebra by vertebra. Just standing behind our chair for a second. Okay. Any questions about that. We're gonna go through it again, but we're gonna add a piece on. Everybody's good? Debbie, we match. We've got the same color tone today. Okay, so the piece we're gonna add on is once we go from plank and we bring the knee up and we find our way to down dog, as we get into down dog, we're gonna add a reach to the opposite ankle, then to the opposite knee, then to the opposite hip. Okay, or you can stay with whichever body part of those three that is feeling good for you today on the twist to that side. Okay, so we're just going to flow between plank, knee forward, down dog, add the reach. Okay, so the knee will start on the same side and end up on the opposite side. The reach is always going to be to the opposite ankle, knee, or hip. Okay, so find your way into your plank here. Lift the toes and the heels away from one another. And then pick which side you're going to start with. You're going to claw the toes, lift the heel as you bring it to the same wrist or elbow. Reach it back, pull the hips back, down dog. As you get the weight back towards the legs, you're going to reach that same hand as we drew the knee towards the opposite ankle, knee, or hip. Find your way back into plank. Toes up, heels up, claw the toes, lift the knee, lift the heel, knee comes between the hands. Shift back, downward dog. This time the other side, we're reaching the outside of that ankle. Find your way to plank, lift the toes and heels, claw the toes opposite. Pull the hips back, down dog. Back to that first side, reach to the ankle, knee or hip. Find your way back to plank. Other side, knee to wrist or elbow. Pull the hips back. Opposite ankle, knee, or hip. With that reach. Between the hands. So if I keep talking, I'm going to screw us up. So just keep flowing through those. And know that if you go the wrong way, it's okay. Yes, Daniel? Okay, thanks, bud. Once you finish the 3 knees to the opposite wrist, you finish that sequence, you go to down dog. We're going to walk the feet to the chair, release the head down, and roll yourself up. Okay, we're going to add on one more. So knee comes forward. This will, actually no, it won't put us out of sequence. So we go from plank, knee comes forward, we go back downward dog with a reach. Hands come back, stay in that downward dog. The next time when the knee comes between the hands, we're going to place that foot on the ground. So whenever the knee comes between the hands, that's our cue to come into this high lunge here, okay? We'll transfer our weight into the front leg, I'm gonna teach this piece and then we'll flow through it. When the weight comes onto that front leg, bring your hand up onto that hip. So we're in this lunge. As the weight shifts onto that leg, think of from the hip down to the foot, the hip kind of pressing forward and down. So you'll feel the heel get a little lighter, but your ankle kind of what I call set. So you'll feel very secure in the foot and ankle, opposed to if you just take the weight onto that leg and leave the heel there and think of lifting this leg, there's a lot more wobbliness. Just try those two, where The legs in front, we shift the weight onto it, and you just leave the foot flat on the floor and lift that back leg. You'll feel a lot of work in the leg, but it kind of jumps all over and is jumbled, is how I describe it. Opposed to as we shift that weight into that leg from this hip, there's a sense of a push forward and down, squishing the foot, the ball of the foot specifically, into the floor. The heel will get a little lighter. It'll still be work, but there's less kind of wobble, I call it. It feels like this leg helps hold this leg up. Everybody finding that sense of that ankle set and the distinction between the two? Yeah, okay, great. If you're having trouble, the other thing that can help is notice if you're trying to have your foot straight. And some of us are going to do better with letting the foot turn out a little bit. So let it turn out a little bit and find that forward down press kind of from the hip. And it's also, you'll feel more pressure on the inside of the ankle when it sets. Almost like this calf muscle stuff is trying to yaw inward. Okay, so once that ankle gets set, we just find a low warrior 3. Keep that ankle set. Think of just pushing from the hip forward and down as you move from warrior 3 into extend or half moon. So you're just turning to the long edge of your mat. So from here, this back leg doesn't need to go up high. It's low, doesn't need to go up high. And we're going to try it another way, because with that leg out, it's a really long lever. So as that ankle sets, warrior 3, maybe the leg comes in, you keep that ankle set, open up, and reach out. So if you find the leg fully extended, it's hard to control it at that foot and ankle on the stance leg. Curl it in, knee to the chest, come to position, and then stretch it out. Okay, so it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be what it is. Some of us are going to stumble off of our mat, and then we'll just come back. Okay? Nice, Debbie. Yeah, nice. Okay, so that's what's going to happen when the leg comes between the wrists. Otherwise, everything else is going to stay the same. Okay? So once we go to that half moon here, then we come back, knee comes up, we just resume where we were. Okay? Make sense? So find that plank. Think of toes and heels lifting up. Pick a side you're going to start with. Okay? You're going to bring and claw the toes, lift the heel, bring that knee to the same elbow. Pull the hips back. Down dog, reach to the opposite side of the outside of that ankle near hip. Find plank, toes, heels up. Claw the toes, lift the heel. Come to that low lunge. Okay? Take a second as the weight shifts onto that leg. From the hip forward and down to set that ankle. And then from that standing scale, kind of warrior 3, you'll move to half moon. Can you keep your hand on the chair? Okay. Find your way back. Pull the hips back, down dog, reaching to the outside of that other ankle. Plank, toes up, heels up. Claw the toes, lift the heel, opposite wrist. Pull the hips back, down dog. So now we're to the other side. Pull the hips back. Claw the toes, lift the heel. Knee comes between the hands. Find the ground with that foot. Set yourself into lunge. Shift your weight onto that front leg. Set that ankle. Think of that push forward and down from the hip. Okay, if you want, draw the knee into the chest as you take it to half moon, open up towards the outside edge of the mat, and then reach that leg out long. And then we're going to turn it back. Find that lunge, knee comes up. Little momentary plank, and then down dog. Reach the outside of that ankle. Toes and knees up. Knee to the opposite. Wrist and ankle. Down dog. Find your way to plank. Back to down dog. Let's walk those feet to the chair. Let the upper body hang and be supported on the legs. Roll yourself back up. Okay, how do we do there? Good, okay. Okay, we can scoot our chair to the side. We're going to work with that ankle set in some different ways. Thanks, Deb. In some different ways with some balance poses. Okay, so let's just come with feet next to one another. I like to bring the hands onto the hips. Just notice if in standing here, you've got a lot of weight in your heels. Like, where's the weight in your feet? Okay. See if you can find some more weight into the transverse arch at the front, or the ball of the foot, and the longitudinal arch on the outside of the foot. So like this area and this area, if my hand was a foot, that is. Less on the heel. So the skin of the heel is still on the ground, but it's not like the bone of the heel is pressing down into the floor. Okay? Just like we did when we were in that single leg stance, have this sense of from the hips, we're going to have a little push forward and down. And you'll feel how that like sets you in that athletic stance a little bit and does what I call sets the ankle. Okay? From here, we're going to take and shift into one leg. Again, once you're there, really reiterate that sort of forward and down action. And this, I call it a kind of a spiraling or a yawing. Like if my calf muscle was a tongue, it's like, and my calf was an ice cream cone, it's like licking down to the inside of my ankle. That calf muscle is like setting in down there. We're going to take that leg that's free and bring that heel back behind our other heel and out to the side. It's going to come behind that other heel, out to the side. So we're just kind of swooping the heel behind the other heel a couple of times. The next time it comes out, we're going to find some shape that looks like tree with that leg on the stance leg. And then we're going to come back down to the floor. It's a lot of work for this ankle stuff. Okay? So you should be feeling like there's work in the foot happening, work in the ankle happening. Let me know if you're feeling it in your knee though. Okay? Because we want to set the ankle differently then. So come back to that stance position. Think of that action of forward and down from the hips into those feet. We're going to take one foot off. Just kind of swooping that heel behind the other heel. The next time you swoop it and it comes forward, find the shape, catch yourself in something like tree. It's where the foot comes to that stance leg. Good. Keep that sense of forward and down from that stance hip. It's like that foot we're standing on is really getting squished between our center of mass and the floor. And then come back to standing. Okay? This time, just from standing here, pick one leg up and go into tree. I mean, it's okay. I don't have anywhere to focus. I'm just kind of there. And then come back to standing and come up into tree on the other side. It's better than it would have been if we hadn't done the tree the way we did before. Okay, let that go. So we're going to come in one more time with that sweeping the heel behind the heel. But this time, so we'll set the ankle, we'll sweep the heel. This time as the leg comes around and is going to find that stance leg, I want you to catch your foot and help place it up higher than it was on the stance leg the last time we did it. Okay? So we're doing everything we did before, but as it comes around, you're going to catch it and help place it higher up on that leg. Okay. So in standing, find that little push forward and down from the hip to set those ankles. You'll feel like a reach of the inner heel almost. Okay, shift your weight onto whatever leg, and you're going to swoop that heel behind and out to the side a couple times. Okay, crouch down, and when you're ready, and it comes out, you're going to catch it and place it on that leg. That ankle set. Think of the foot and the leg pushing into one another like magnets that stick together, not repel. And let that go. There's one side that they stick together, and then one side, I remember, they push apart. I'm like, we don't want that side. Okay, so we're going to go through that same thing on the other side. So find and set that ankle. Play with the heel behind the other heel. Just swoop it, like make it swirly. And then when you're ready, when it comes out, catch it. Find that standing leg. Woo, toppling tree. Okay, and then come on out. Just stand, or you can walk around your space a little bit. Okay, so we're going to do everything the same, but instead of coming into tree for this last one, when we swoop the heel, and then when we catch that foot, when it comes out here, we're catching the foot with the hand. And we can either stay here once we've caught it, or then once we caught it with that ankle set, we'll lift that leg, okay? So instead of tree, I forget what that one's called. It's not bird of paradise, because that's got the bind. I don't know. I think that's head to toe, big toe pose or something. Okay, so pick whichever leg you want to start on. We're going to set that ankle. With this leg, when it comes up, think of lifting the toes and heel, or whichever variation of what you did with the foot helped when you did the knees up at the start of class. So this leg, when you go to catch it with the hand and then take it up, the take it up part, do whatever you did with the toes and the heel on this leg that worked well for you at the start of class. Okay, that ankle set, heel behind, heel behind. When you're ready, catch it, do the toes. Okay, and then come on out of it. Go to the other side. Set that ankle, heel behind, heel behind, heel behind. Whenever you're ready, catch it, On in and come on out. Good. Well done. Nice. Okay, we're going to come down to the floor. So if you've got your blanket, your pillow handy, grab it. So fold your blanket up. So you've got a couple, an inch to a 2-inch platform. We're going to come down to the ground. Once you get to the ground, feet are on the floor. And we're going to lift the hips and slide that platform underneath the pelvis. And we want to have the back of the pelvis, and the sit bones, the whole of the pelvis is really on that platform. So don't make it much bigger than kind of 2 inches once you put weight on it. Pelvis comes onto that. Okay, we're gonna, again, actually we're just gonna bring one knee into the chest. You can hold behind the thigh or you can hold onto that just below the shin. Then that other leg, it doesn't need to stay on the floor, so don't try to keep the heel on the floor or anything like that. You're gonna stretch it out and think the toe and heel pulling up. So like we've been doing in class, toes and heels pull up as that leg stretches out. Whether it reaches the floor or not, it doesn't matter. And then you're just going to let it kind of tick-tock side to side. If there's a particular kind of place, notice where the toes are relative to the heel, and then just let that extended leg come to stillness. But continue to think of reaching the sole of the foot away and lifting the heels and the toes. That knee that's to our chest, let's hug it with the same arm and just take it out to the side a little bit. Hug it up into the armpit. And then bring it back to center, and then hug it in with the opposite arm and hug it across. Let the pelvis roll on that pillow or blanket padding that we're on. And take that and rotate the lower body kind of away from the upper body, which is still facing the ceiling. And then bring that knee back to center. Stand that extended leg back up onto the floor. Bring that knee from the chest to the floor. Just take a second there and take in your left side and take in your right side. And then we'll bring that opposite knee to the chest. And as you reach that leg away, again, don't worry if the heel comes off the ground. Think of the heel and the toes pulling up as the sole of the foot reaches away. And once you're there, maybe as you inhale, exhale, just some gentle tick-tocking of that leg back and forth. I always think of my grandparents. They had a grandfather clock. So when you slept over there, you always would wake up in the night, and you're like waiting, and you'd know what time it was when it would do the quarter hour or the hour and a half an hour. Let that leg come to stillness. Really keep thinking of reaching the sole of the foot away, but the toes and heel are lifting towards your head. And then hug that knee into the armpit with that same arm. Let's take a few breaths here. And then you're going to hug it to center and then hug it with the opposite arm. And you're going to take the legs and the pelvis and let them turn away from the ceiling. You don't need to bring them to the floor. The platform you're on is kind of going to dictate how far they move away from midline. You're all away from the midline. Take a couple of breaths there, and then you'll let them come back to face the ceiling as well. Stand that extended leg, that foot on the floor. Bring that other foot to the floor. And again, just take a second, take in your right side and your left side. Once you take a moment to do that, you're going to press both feet in, take in the whole of you as you lift the hips just a smidge to slide that out and bring yourself to the floor. You can take that blanket and either unfold it a bit and place it underneath the head. If you want, you can unfold it a bit or all the way and use it as like on the body, either as a little bit of weight or a bit of warmth. Okay, you could roll it and place it under the thighs or the knees. So take a second to just decide where you want that blanket supporting you. And then we'll settle into our final pose today, which is, of course, Shavasana. And as you're settling in, deciding whether, okay, I'm good, I'm not good, just kind of ask yourself, like, is there some other kindness you could extend to yourself here that would have you be 5 to 10% more comfortable? For me, that's taking off my glasses. Then be aware of my voice and the sounds of the room you're in. And then let your attention move to feeling your body on the surface it rests. Sensations of pressure or tingling or numbness, warmth or coolness. The cats know it's Shavasana. They've come to join us. Hi, OJ. And then bring your attention into your breath in and your breath out. And let the edges of your attention soften, diffuse, and expand.
Let your attention start to come back into noticing your breath. The air moves in and out. And of your body as it rests on the support, the surface that it's on. Noticing sensations of pressure, numbness, tingling, warmth, coolness, sound of my voice, and in the room and space where you are. Gently start to bring movement back to the body. That might be by way of wiggling fingers and toes, or gently rolling the head side to side, or stretching the legs and arms out long, curling into a ball. But just take the next few moments to bring movement back in a way that feels luxurious for you today, that lets you just linger a little bit. Hey, buddy. And then as you bring movement back to the body, we'll make our way onto our side. And again, let yourself linger there for a moment or two before you use your arm and hand to make your way up to a seated position. Maybe as we make our way up to seated, we let the head sort of be the last thing to roll on top. Hey, OJ. Hi, buddy. Hi. You want to do some yoga? Oh, yeah. Some spins? Oh, yeah. Hi, bud. Cat came in and joined us, so you can let the hands rest in your lap, or the palms could come together just to the left side of the breastbone before the heart in Anjali Mudra. Let's let the gaze just stay a little bit internal. Breathing in with ease and exhaling just with a sense of okayness. Om Shanti Shanti, peace. Hi, buddy. Oh, yeah. Hi. Oh, yeah. Belly rubs. Belly rubs. Okay, I will stick around for a few minutes if you've got questions or you want to connect, and otherwise we'll see you guys next week. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hi.